First story. Sarah Martinez had always been different from other girls in her small Texas town. While her classmates painted their nails and talked about boys, she spent weekends hunting deer with her grandfather in the dense woods behind their ranch. Her grandfather, a Vietnam War veteran, taught her everything about rifles, patience, and precision. When Sarah turned 18, she made a decision that shocked everyone in town. She walked into the Marine recruitment office on a hot summer morning, wearing her father's old work boots and carrying her grandfather's hunting rifle case. The recruiter, Sergeant Williams, looked up from his paperwork with surprise. "Can I help you, miss?" he asked, clearly not expecting a petite blonde girl to walk into his office. "I want to join the Marines," Sarah said firmly, placing her rifle case on his desk, "and I want to be a sniper." Sergeant Williams almost choked on his coffee. In his 15 years of recruiting, no woman had ever asked specifically about sniper training. He looked at Sarah's small frame and gentle face, thinking she might be better suited for administration or communications. "Sweetheart, being a Marine is tough work. Maybe you should consider the Air Force or Navy. They have great opportunities for women," he suggested kindly. Sarah's eyes flashed with determination. "I didn't ask about other branches. I want to be a Marine sniper." After much discussion and several tests, Sarah was accepted into the Marines. Her family was proud but worried. Her mother cried the night before she left for boot camp, wondering if her daughter knew what she was getting into. Boot camp at Paris Island was brutal. Sarah was one of only 12 women in her platoon, and from day one, the drill instructors made it clear they expected her to fail. The physical training was intense, but Sarah had grown up strong from ranch work. The real challenge came from her fellow recruits. Many of the male Marines treated her like a little sister who had wandered into the wrong place. Some were protective, others were dismissive, but none took her seriously as a potential warrior. They called her Barbie and Princess behind her back, always with smirks and eye rolls. During weapons training, Sarah's natural shooting ability began to show. While other recruits struggled to hit targets at 200 meters, she was consistently hitting bullseyes at 400 meters with iron sights. Her instructor, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, noticed her talent immediately. "Where did you learn to shoot like that?" he asked after watching her score perfect marks for the third day in a row. "My grandfather taught me," Sarah replied, cleaning her rifle with the same care others might use to handle precious jewelry. "He always said patience and breathing control matter more than strength." Word of Sarah's shooting skills spread through the base, but instead of earning respect, it brought more mockery. The other Marines assumed she was getting special treatment or easier targets. Some even suggested she was cheating somehow. "There's no way that little girl is out shooting Marines who've been training for months," complained Private Johnson, a large man from Alabama who prided himself on his marksmanship. The doubt and whispers followed Sarah everywhere. In the mess hall, during PT, even during downtime, she could hear the snickers and see the rolled eyes. But she kept her focus on her goal. Every night, she would write letters to her grandfather, telling him about her progress and asking for advice. Her grandfather's responses were always the same. "Let your actions speak louder than their words. When the time comes, be ready." As boot camp progressed, Sarah's overall performance put her near the top of her class. She excelled in tactical training, weapons handling, and even hand-to-hand combat, where her smaller size actually gave her advantages in speed and agility. But the respect she craved remained elusive. The breaking point came during a field exercise in Week 10. The platoon was conducting night reconnaissance when Private Johnson, who had been drinking despite regulations, decided to confront Sarah publicly. "I'm tired of pretending this little girl belongs here," he announced to the group. "Marines are supposed to be warriors, not wannabe cowgirls playing dress-up." Sarah felt her face burning with embarrassment and anger, but she remembered her grandfather's words. She looked Johnson straight in the eye and said calmly, "I guess we'll see who the real Marine is when graduation comes." The tension was thick as the other recruits watched this confrontation. Some looked uncomfortable, others seemed entertained by the drama. But Sarah simply turned and walked away, refusing to engage in a shouting match that would only prove Johnson's point about women being too emotional for military service. That night, alone in her bunk, Sarah made a promise to herself. She would not just graduate from boot camp. She would earn her way into sniper school and prove that she belonged among the Corps' elite marksmen. The laughter and doubts would only fuel her determination. The final weeks of boot camp flew by, and graduation day arrived with families gathering to watch their Marines receive their Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. Sarah's parents and grandfather made the long trip from Texas, beaming with pride as she stood at attention in her dress blues. After the ceremony, Staff Sergeant Rodriguez approached Sarah with a serious expression. "Martinez, you've got the highest marksmanship scores I've seen in 5 years. I've recommended you for Scout Sniper School, but I have to warn you, it's going to make boot camp look like summer vacation." Sarah felt her heart racing with excitement and fear. Scout Sniper School was legendary for its difficulty. Most Marines who attempted it failed within the first few weeks. Only the absolute best marksmen in the Corps even got the chance to try. "When do I report, Staff Sergeant?" she asked. 6 weeks. Use that time to prepare yourself mentally and physically. You're going to need every advantage you can get. As Sarah said goodbye to her platoon, the reactions were mixed. Some of her fellow Marines had gained respect for her determination and skills over the past months. Others, including Johnson, still believed she was in over her head. "Good luck, Barbie," Johnson said with a smirk as they shook hands. "Try not to cry when the real training starts." Sarah smiled sweetly and replied, "I'll be sure to send you a postcard from Sniper School." The 6 weeks between boot camp and Sniper School passed quickly. Sarah returned home to Texas, where she spent every day practicing with her grandfather. They worked on advanced breathing techniques, reading wind conditions, and calculating distances without rangefinders. "Granddad, what if I'm not good enough?" Sarah asked one evening as they watched the sunset from their favorite shooting spot. Her grandfather was quiet for a long moment before answering. "Sarah, I've watched you grow from a little girl who could barely hold a rifle to a Marine who can outshoot men twice her size. You have something special, something that can't be taught. Trust yourself." When the time came to report to Sniper School, Sarah packed her bags with the same determination she had felt walking into the recruitment office over a year ago. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she also knew she was ready for whatever challenges awaited her. The bus ride to the training facility was long and quiet. Sarah looked out the window at the passing landscape, thinking about all the people who had doubted her abilities. Soon, she would have the chance to prove them wrong once and for all. The laughter that had followed her through boot camp would soon be replaced by something else entirely. Respect earned through skill, dedication, and precision that few could match. As the training facility came into view, Sarah took a deep breath and prepared for the most challenging experience of her life. She was no longer the small-town girl who walked into a recruitment office with dreams and determination. She was a United States Marine, and she was ready to become something even more elite. Second story. Scout Sniper School was located in a remote desert facility that looked like something from a science fiction movie. The buildings were low and spread out, designed to blend into the harsh landscape. As Sarah stepped off the bus with 19 other Marines, the heat hit her like a physical force. Gunnery Sergeant Mike "Iron Mike" Thompson was waiting for them. He was a legend in the Marine Corps, with 3 combat tours and a reputation for turning out the deadliest snipers in the military. He looked at the group of new arrivals with the expression of a man examining broken equipment. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to hell," Iron Mike announced in a voice that could cut through steel. Over the next 12 weeks, I will break you down and either build you back up into Marine Scout snipers or send you home in shame. Most of you will fail. This is not a question. It is a mathematical certainty. His eyes stopped on Sarah, and she felt the weight of his stare. She had heard about Iron Mike during boot camp. The stories said he had never passed a female Marine through sniper school because none had ever met his standards. "Martinez," he called out, reading from his roster. "You're the first woman to make it into my program in 3 years. The last one quit after 4 days. How long do you think you'll last?" Sarah stood at attention and replied clearly, "As long as it takes to graduate, Gunnery Sergeant." Iron Mike's expression didn't change, but several of the male Marines chuckled quietly. They had all heard about the girl from boot camp, but seeing her in person, she looked impossibly small and delicate for such brutal training. The first week was designed to weed out anyone who lacked commitment. The physical training started before dawn with 5-mile runs in full gear through the desert. Then came hours of classroom instruction on ballistics, meteorology, and camouflage techniques. The days ended with practical exercises that lasted well into the night. Sarah's roommate was Lance Corporal David Chen, an Asian-American Marine from California who had been an engineering student before joining the Corps. Unlike many of the others, he treated Sarah with respect from day one. "How are you holding up?" he asked after their third night of 3 hours' sleep. "I'm tired, but I expected that," Sarah replied, cleaning her rifle in the dark. "How about you?" "I'm questioning my life choices," Chen admitted with a tired laugh. "But I'm not quitting." "Are you?" "Not a chance," Sarah said firmly. By the end of week 1, 3 Marines had quit. Iron Mike announced their departure without emotion, simply stating that they had chosen to pursue other opportunities within the Corps. The remaining 17 Marines looked around at each other, wondering who would be next. The second week introduced advanced marksmanship training. The targets were placed at distances that seemed impossible: 800 meters, 1,000 meters, and eventually 1,200 meters. The Marines were expected to hit human-sized targets consistently at these ranges using M40 sniper rifles. Sarah's natural ability began to shine during these exercises. While other Marines struggled to hit targets at 800 meters, she was putting bullets through the bullseye at 1,000 meters with seemingly effortless precision. Her breathing control and trigger discipline were textbook perfect. But instead of earning respect, her performance generated resentment among some of her classmates. Corporal Mike "Beast" Williams, a muscular Marine from Detroit, began making loud comments about beginner's luck and special treatment for diversity cases. "There's no way she's shooting better than Marines who've been training longer," Beast complained to his buddies during chow. "Something's not right about this whole situation." The rumors and whispers started again, just like in boot camp. Some Marines suggested that Iron Mike was giving Sarah easier targets or better equipment. Others claimed she was getting private coaching that the rest of them weren't receiving. Iron Mike noticed the tension but said nothing. He watched Sarah's performance carefully, looking for any sign that she was struggling or that her skills were somehow artificial. What he saw was a Marine with exceptional natural ability, combined with intensive childhood training and unwavering focus. Week 3 brought stalking exercises, where Marines had to crawl unseen across open ground to reach shooting positions. Sarah's smaller size became an advantage as she could fit into spaces that larger Marines couldn't use for concealment. She consistently reached her targets undetected, while others were spotted and failed. "This is ridiculous," Beast muttered after Sarah completed another perfect stalk. "She's got to be cheating somehow." Chen, who had become Sarah's closest friend in the program, finally spoke up. "Maybe instead of making excuses, you should focus on improving your own performance." The confrontation escalated quickly, with Beast standing up and towering over Chen. "You want to say that again, college boy?" Before things could get physical, Iron Mike appeared as if from nowhere. His presence immediately diffused the situation, but Sarah could see the anger and frustration on Beast's face. She knew the resentment was building toward an explosion. The fourth week introduced long-range precision shooting at distances beyond 1,500 meters. At these ranges, factors like wind speed, humidity, temperature, and even the rotation of the Earth became critical variables. The margin for error was measured in fractions of inches. Sarah's grandfather had prepared her for this level of precision. During their practice sessions in Texas, he had taught her to read environmental conditions like a natural language. She could feel changes in wind direction and estimate distances by observing how heat waves distorted her view of the target. During one memorable exercise, the class was challenged to hit targets at 1,600 meters in challenging wind conditions. Most Marines missed completely, while a few managed to hit the outer rings of the target. Sarah's first shot hit dead center, and her second shot hit so close to the first that the bullet holes overlapped. Iron Mike walked to where Sarah was lying prone behind her rifle. His expression was unreadable as he studied the target through his spotting scope. "Martinez, how many years have you been shooting?" he asked quietly. "Since I was 7, Gunnery Sergeant." "My grandfather taught me." "Your grandfather was military?" "Yes, Gunnery Sergeant. Vietnam veteran, Army infantry." Iron Mike nodded slowly. For the first time, Sarah thought she saw a hint of approval in his eyes, but the moment passed quickly as he moved on to critique other Marines' performance. That evening, the tension finally boiled over. Beast cornered Sarah outside the mess hall, accompanied by 2 other Marines who had been struggling with the program. "I'm tired of watching you make the rest of us look bad," Beast said aggressively. "This whole thing is some kind of publicity stunt for the Corps, and we all know it." Sarah remained calm, remembering her grandfather's advice about not letting emotions control her actions. "If you have concerns about the program, you should speak to Gunnery Sergeant Thompson." "Don't play innocent with me," Beast continued, stepping closer. "You're getting help that the rest of us aren't, and it's not fair to Marines who earned their spots here." Before Sarah could respond, Chen appeared with several other Marines who had witnessed the confrontation. The situation was becoming dangerous, with angry Marines facing off in the growing darkness. "Back off, Beast," Chen said firmly. "Sarah's performance speaks for itself. She's not cheating. She's just better than you." Beast's face turned red with rage. "Better than me? That little girl wouldn't last 5 minutes in real combat. This is all just target shooting games." Sarah felt something snap inside her. The months of doubt, mockery, and accusations had built up to this moment. She looked Beast straight in the eye and spoke with quiet intensity. "You want to see what I can do? Tomorrow's final exercise includes shooting at 1,800 meters. Pick any target you want, any conditions you want. If I miss, I'll quit the program. If I hit it, you stop questioning my abilities and start focusing on your own training." The group fell silent, and 1,800-meter shot was extremely difficult, even for experienced snipers. In challenging conditions, it would test the absolute limits of skill and equipment. Beast smiled, thinking he had found a way to expose Sarah as a fraud. "You're on, Princess. Tomorrow everyone will see what you really are." Word of the challenge spread quickly through the remaining Marines. By the next morning, even Iron Mike had heard about the bet. He said nothing officially, but Sarah noticed he spent extra time setting up the observation equipment for the day's exercise. The shooting range that morning was brutal. Desert winds were gusting up to 15 miles per hour from changing directions. The temperature was already climbing toward 110 degrees. And heat mirages made long-range observation extremely difficult. Iron Mike called the class to attention and explained the day's exercise. Marines would attempt shots at various distances up to 1,800 meters, with points awarded based on accuracy and consistency. It was designed to be the most challenging shooting test of the entire program. Sarah prepared her equipment methodically, checking and rechecking every detail. Her rifle was zeroed perfectly, Her scope was calibrated for the expected conditions, and she had calculated wind drift and bullet drop for multiple distance scenarios. When her turn came to shoot at the 1-800-meter target, a crowd of Marines gathered to watch. Beast stood nearby with his arms crossed, confident that he was about to witness Sarah's public humiliation and voluntary withdrawal from the program. Sarah settled into her shooting position, controlling her breathing and clearing her mind of everything except the target. Through her scope, the target appeared impossibly small and constantly shifting in the heat waves. The wind was gusting unpredictably, requiring her to time her shot for a brief moment of relative calm. She waited, feeling for the rhythm of the wind and the natural pause between her heartbeats. Her grandfather's voice seemed to whisper in her ear. Patience, precision, and confidence. Trust your training. The moment felt perfect. Sarah squeezed the trigger with the same gentle pressure she had used thousands of times before. The rifle bucked against her shoulder, and the sound echoed across the desert range. Third story. The bullet traveled for what seemed like an eternity. Sarah remained motionless behind her rifle, watching through her scope as the tiny projectile crossed nearly 2 miles of desert air. The gathered Marines stood in complete silence, some looking through spotting scopes, others squinting against the harsh sunlight. Iron Mike's voice cut through the tension. Dead center hit. Perfect score. The silence stretched for another moment before Beast's jaw dropped open in shock. Several Marines began murmuring in disbelief. Chen grinned and gave Sarah a thumbs up from where he stood with the other observers. That was just luck, Beast protested, though his voice lacked the confidence it had carried the day before. One shot doesn't prove anything. Iron Mike heard the comment and walked over to where Beast was standing. His expression was harder than Sarah had ever seen it. Corporal Williams, since you seem to think that shot was luck, perhaps you'd like to demonstrate the proper technique. The range is still hot, and I have all day. Beast's face went pale. He had been struggling with shots beyond 1,000 meters throughout the program, and everyone knew it. And 1-800-meter shot in these conditions was beyond his current skill level. I think my rifle might need adjustment, Gunnery Sergeant, Beast stammered. Then adjust it and take your shot, Iron Mike replied coldly. Or admit that Marine Martinez just accomplished something you cannot do. The challenge hung in the air like smoke. Beast looked around at the faces of his fellow Marines, realizing that his constant criticism of Sarah had backed him into an impossible corner. He could either attempt a shot he was likely to miss badly, or publicly acknowledge Sarah's superior marksmanship. After a long pause, Beast walked away, without another word. The confrontation was over, but Sarah felt no satisfaction in his defeat. She had joined the Marines to serve her country, not to humiliate fellow service members. The remaining weeks of sniper school passed more smoothly. Word of Sarah's 1-800-meter shot spread throughout the base, earning her a new level of respect from her classmates. Even Marines who had initially doubted her abilities began asking for advice on long-range shooting techniques. Chen continued to be her closest friend and training partner. During late-night study sessions, they would quiz each other on ballistics calculations and discuss advanced tactical scenarios. "Have you thought about what happens after graduation?" Chen asked one evening as they cleaned their rifles. "I'll go where the Corps sends me," Sarah replied. "Hopefully somewhere I can use these skills to help other Marines." "You've definitely proven yourself here," Chen said. "I think even Iron Mike is impressed, though he'd never admit it." Chen was right about Iron Mike's changing attitude. The gunnery sergeant had begun using Sarah's performance as an example during instruction periods, pointing out her technique and discipline to other students. While he never showed favoritism, his respect for her abilities was becoming obvious to everyone in the program. The final examination came during week 12. Each Marine had to complete a comprehensive test that included long-range marksmanship, stalking exercises, ballistics calculations, and tactical planning. The standards were unforgiving. A single major failure meant dismissal from the program. Sarah approached the final exam with the same methodical preparation she had used throughout training. She reviewed her notes, checked her equipment multiple times, and spent extra time practicing the breathing techniques her grandfather had taught her. The marksmanship portion required hits at multiple distances, ranging from 600 to 2,000 meters. Sarah completed the course with perfect scores at every distance, including a spectacular shot at the maximum range that earned applause from the observing instructors. During the stalking exercise, she had to approach within 200 meters of a hidden observer position without being detected. Using natural terrain features and carefully planned movement, Sarah completed the stalk in record time, while remaining completely invisible to the watchers. When the final scores were announced, Sarah had achieved the highest overall marks in her class. Of the 20 Marines who had started the program, only 8 graduated. Sarah was not only among the survivors, she was the distinguished graduate of her class. Iron Mike called her aside after the ceremony where they received their Scout Sniper badges. His expression was serious as they walked to a quiet corner of the base. "Martinez, in 22 years of running this program, I have never had a Marine achieve the scores you posted," he said quietly. "Your shooting ability is exceptional, but more importantly, your discipline and mental toughness are exactly what this Corps needs." Sarah felt a surge of pride at the praise from someone whose respect she had worked so hard to earn. "Thank you, Gunnery Sergeant. I learned from the best instructors in the Corps." "Where would you like to be assigned?" Iron Mike asked. "Your scores give you some choice in your next duty station." "Wherever Marines need sniper support, Gunnery Sergeant. I want to serve where I can make the biggest difference." 6 months later, Sarah found herself deployed to Afghanistan as part of a special operations unit. Her team was tasked with providing precision fire support for Marine infantry units operating in dangerous mountain regions where Taliban fighters had established strong positions. The deployment started quietly, with Sarah's team conducting reconnaissance missions and gathering intelligence on enemy movements. Her shooting skills were valuable, but she hadn't yet had the opportunity to use them in actual combat. That changed on a hot morning in September, when her unit received an urgent call for help. A Marine patrol had been ambushed in a narrow valley and was pinned down by enemy fighters positioned on high ground nearly 4,000 meters away. The trapped Marines were taking casualties and running low on ammunition. Sarah's team was inserted by helicopter onto a mountainside that provided clear lines of sight to the enemy positions. Through her spotting scope, Sarah could see muzzle flashes from Taliban fighters who were methodically targeting the trapped Marines below. "Range to target is 3,800 meters, her spotter, Sergeant Adams, called out after checking their laser rangefinder. "Wind is variable, gusting from the northeast at 8 to 12 miles per hour." Sarah felt the familiar calm that came before a precision shot. This was what all her training had prepared her for, a moment when her skills could save the lives of fellow Marines. She adjusted her scope for the extreme range and began calculating the complex ballistics required for such a long shot. At 3,800 meters, her bullet would take nearly 5 seconds to reach the target. Gravity would pull it down significantly, and the mountain winds would push it off course if she didn't account for every variable. The shot required not just marksmanship, but an understanding of physics that few people possessed. "Target is a Taliban fighter with a machine gun," Adams reported. "He's the one causing the most problems for our guys down there." Sarah could see the target through her scope, a figure in traditional Afghan clothing manning a heavy weapon that was systematically targeting the trapped Marines. She took a deep breath, feeling for the wind patterns and timing her shot for the brief pause between gusts. Everything her grandfather had taught her, everything she had learned in sniper school, everything that had brought her to this moment, came together in perfect focus. She squeezed the trigger with the same smooth pressure she had used thousands of times before. The sound of the shot echoed off the mountain walls as Sarah's bullet began its long journey through the thin mountain air. For nearly 5 seconds, the outcome hung in the balance as the projectile traveled over 2 miles to its target. Through her scope, Sarah watched as the Taliban fighter suddenly collapsed. His machine gun fell silent and the devastating fire that had been pinning down the Marine patrol instantly stopped. "Holy shit," Adams whispered. "That's got to be some kind of record." Radio chatter immediately filled their headsets as the trapped Marines began reporting that the enemy fire had stopped and they could move to safer positions. Within minutes, additional support arrived and the Marines were extracted without further casualties. Later that evening, Sarah's commanding officer called her into his tent for a debriefing. Colonel Davis was a veteran Marine who had served multiple combat tours, but even he seemed impressed by what had happened. "Martinez, I've been in this Corps for 20 years, and I've never seen a shot like that," he said, reviewing the mission report. 3,800 meters in mountain winds with a moving target. The mathematics alone are staggering. "I just did my job, sir," Sarah replied. "Those Marines needed help and I was in position to provide it." "That shot saved lives today," the colonel continued, "but more than that, it's going to become part of Marine Corps history. Word is already spreading through the command structure." Sarah felt uncomfortable with the attention. She had joined the Marines to serve, not to become famous, but she understood that exceptional performance in combat would inevitably draw notice from higher command levels. Over the following weeks, the story of her 3,800-meter shot spread throughout the military. Sarah received commendations from senior officers and was interviewed by military journalists documenting the achievements of female Marines in combat roles. The same Marines who had once laughed at her appearance and questioned her abilities now spoke of her with genuine respect and admiration. Even Beast, who had challenged her credibility in sniper school, sent a message congratulating her on the successful mission. Chen, who was deployed with a different unit in the same region, managed to visit Sarah's base during a resupply mission. They sat together in the dusty compound, sharing stories of their experiences since graduating from sniper school. "Remember when you walked into that recruitment office wanting to be a sniper?" Chen asked with a smile. "I bet that recruiter never imagined this is where you'd end up." Sarah thought about that day in Texas, when she had been just an 18-year-old girl with a dream of serving her country. The journey from that small-town recruitment office to this mountain base in Afghanistan seemed impossible, but every step had been earned through dedication and skill. "I never imagined it either," she admitted. "But my grandfather always said that if you prepare yourself and stay focused on your goals, opportunities will present themselves." "Well, you've definitely made the most of your opportunities," Chen replied. "That shot is already legendary. Marines are going to be talking about it for decades." As Sarah's deployment continued, she participated in numerous missions that utilized her exceptional marksmanship skills. Each successful operation reinforced her reputation as one of the Corps' most capable snipers, but she never forgot the lessons her grandfather had taught her about humility and service. When her deployment ended and she returned to the United States, Sarah was assigned as an instructor at the Scout Sniper School where she had trained. Iron Mike, now promoted to First Sergeant, personally requested her for his training staff. "The Corps needs instructors who can teach both the technical skills and the mental discipline required for this job," he explained when she reported for duty. "Your combat experience and teaching ability make you perfect for this role." Standing on the same desert range where she had once been doubted and challenged, Sarah now found herself training the next generation of Marine snipers. Some of her students were skeptical at first, seeing a young woman instructor, but her reputation and demonstrated abilities quickly earned their respect. During her first class orientation, Sarah looked out at 20 new students and saw the same mix of excitement, nervousness, and determination she had felt years earlier. Some of them would succeed, others would fail, but all of them deserved her best effort as an instructor. "Welcome to Scout Sniper School," she began, her voice carrying the authority that came from combat experience. "Over the next 12 weeks, you will be tested in ways you cannot imagine. Some of you will discover abilities you never knew you possessed. Others will learn that this program is not for them, and that's okay too." She paused, thinking about her own journey from a small town in Texas to this moment. "What I can promise you is this. If you bring dedication, discipline, and a willingness to learn, I will teach you everything you need to know to become a United States Marine Scout sniper." As her students began their training, Sarah reflected on how far she had come since that day when Marines had laughed at her sight. The laughter had long since been replaced by respect. The doubts had been silenced by proven capability. And the small-town girl with big dreams had become exactly what she had always known she could be, a United States Marine.